picture this, right? An aging father sitting completely silent by a cold stove. The air is literally thick with dust, and the wooden benches of his once bustling restaurant are entirely, heartbreakingly empty. It's a tough reality to look at. Why do so many beloved, incredible food businesses, places built on real hard work and cherished family recipes, just eventually fade into smoke and dust? Well, today in this explainer, we're zeroing in on the intense struggle behind restaurant survival. We're going to decode the unseen psychological traps of business that honestly quietly sabotage success every single day.
It's the central mystery of the culinary world, isn't it? You know, you can have the absolute best recipe in the village, you can have the freshest ingredients, an incredible work ethic, the whole shebang, and yet, you still might be forced to close your doors. Okay, let's dive into this, because it turns out the answer isn't actually hiding in the kitchen. It's in the mind.
To really understand why restaurants fail, we have to look at the psychology of money. Financial author Morgan Housel hit the nail on the head when he said, good investing isn't about brilliance, it's about survival. And surviving the food business, it is a deeply psychological game. It's not just about whipping up a brilliant recipe, it's about building the mental and emotional resilience to weather the storms that inevitably roll in long after opening day.
So let's start with Section 1, the empty table reality.
And that brings us straight to our very first psychological pitfall. Trap number 1, the trap of stagnation.
Think about Ramdani's dhaba. Years ago, folks used to say your journey literally wasn't complete unless you stopped to eat there. 10 years ago, his place was packed with bustling crowds. But here's the thing. That past success, it created a bubble. He convinced himself that customers wanted exactly what they wanted decades ago, and he completely refused to look outside that bubble. So fast forward to 5 years ago, and it's just occasional travelers stopping by. And today, his son Mohan returns from the city to find nothing but smoke, dust, and empty benches. Ramdani's legacy was reduced to dust because the world around him changed. People wanted new experiences, maybe a little bit of spice, some variety. But Ramdani, he stubbornly insisted on only selling the plainest, simplest food. And the hard truth is, if a business refuses to change with its customers, it just dies.
Morgan Housel gives us this great warning. The most important part of every plan is planning on your plan not going according to plan. Ramdani planned for his dhaba to stay exactly the same forever. And man, that stubbornness almost cost him his relationship with his son Mohan. It got so bad that Mohan literally had to fake selling the business just to wake his dad up and make him realize that actually preserving a legacy means allowing it to evolve. So the absolute crucial takeaway here is this. Survival requires the flexibility to change your plan when reality demands it.
Which leads us perfectly into our next psychological pitfall. Trap number 2, copying the wrong game.
Let's look at a humble little Maggi noodle stall run by a guy named Rakesh. When Rakesh's tiny stall started booming, all thanks to his wife's secret spices, his neighbor Sanjay watched with intense jealousy. And that jealousy, it led to some fatal financial mistakes. This brilliantly illustrates the difference between trying to look successful and actually being successful. On one hand, you've got Sanjay's strategy. This flashy, super expensive steel cart, costly imported sauces, a massive sign, the works. The result? Awful tasting food that actively drove customers away. But on the other hand, look at Rakesh's reality. A totally humble setup, homemade spices, and just massive lines of loyal customers waiting out in the rain for a bowl. What happened here is that Sanjay fell victim to something called the man-in-the-car paradox. Basically, this is when you buy things to impress people who aren't even paying attention to you in the first place. Sanjay bought that crazy expensive steel cart and those fancy sauces to be admired, right? To look rich and successful to the rest of the village. But the customers? They could not care less about his shiny cart. They only cared about the authentic, delicious taste of Rakesh's food. Sanjay spent his money just to show off how much money he had, which, as it turns out, is the absolute fastest way to have less of it.
Few things matter more with money than understanding your own time horizon and not being persuaded by people playing different games. You absolutely cannot survive by just copying someone else's playbook totally out of context. Sanjay failed because he was playing a game of status and showmanship. But Rakesh, he was just playing a game of authentic flavor and humble service. You've got to know what game you're actually playing.
Let's see how this builds into our third and final trap. Trap number 3, surviving sabotage and storms.
Take Madhav, a poor vendor who started up a pav bhaji stall. The food business isn't just about cooking, you guys. It's about weathering totally unpredictable storms. Madhav almost immediately ran into the hidden costs of success. First, this massive, sudden downpour threatened to completely ruin his food.
Then, a jealous rival named Rajesh started spreading these vicious, malicious rumors that Madhav's food was rotten and violently sickening people. These things aren't just bad luck. They are the hidden costs of doing business. They're the emotional toll you have to pay.
We really need to reframe how we view these kinds of hardships. Volatility is a fee. It's not a fine. Bad weather, vicious competitors, they're simply the price of admission to success. They are not a punishment. When you finally realize that stress and doubt are just the literal fee you pay to be in business, you stop panicking every single time things go wrong.
So how exactly do you pay that fee? First step, you survive the rumor. Madhav didn't panic, and he didn't close down. Second step, you deliver consistent quality. He just kept his head down, making his delicious food with fresh ingredients. And the third step? You let the truth compound. Madhav let his loyal customers, like the stranded travelers and this local police officer who actually caught Rajesh's hired thugs, he let them bust the rumors for him. His honesty and his quality spoke so much louder than the sabotage ever could.
Bringing all these lessons together gives us the recipe for survival.
Long-term wealth in the food business, or honestly any business at all, relies almost entirely on emotional resilience and discipline. It's all about playing defense to keep what you've built and staying in the game long enough for your efforts to actually pay off. Think about it. A restaurant does not win on opening day. Day 1 is just your initial risk. But by day 100, you've weathered the storms, you've survived the rumors, and by day 1000, now you've got compounded loyalty. Survival is what allows trust and reputation to compound quietly over time, exactly like a smart financial investment.
I want you to let this number really sink in for a second. 94%. In the financial world, wildly successful stocks, like Netflix in its early days, spent 94% of their time trading below their all-time highs. And the exact same logic applies to businesses. Great businesses spent a huge percentage of their early days just struggling, facing downpours, empty benches, ruthless rivals. Survival through that brutal 94%, that is the ultimate win.
Because ultimately, what are you surviving for? Well, the highest form of wealth is the ability to wake up every morning and say, I can do whatever I want. Think of Sukram. Here was a man drowning in debt, sitting inside an unplugged old refrigerator just to escape the brutal heat. But he dreamed of building a dhaba that actually felt like a fridge, with mud walls and water to keep it cool. He wasn't just dreaming of big piles of cash. He was dreaming of control. He was dreaming of the freedom and the peace of mind to live his life entirely on his own terms.
True wealth isn't built overnight. It's silent. It grows through trust, through intense discipline, and having the courage to keep moving forward even when the benches are completely empty and the storms are raging outside. Whether you're running a roadside stall, launching a tech startup, or just managing your own personal savings, the psychology is exactly the same. Your emotions will try to sabotage you, but your resilience is what will save you.
So I'm going to leave you with this final, crucial thought to apply to your own entrepreneurial and financial journey. Are you building a business just to look rich today? Or are you building the resilience to actually survive until tomorrow? I really want you to think about that as you navigate your own path. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time.